Hello, this is Mose Jacobs and Emily for DeBarra Spoken Word. Emily, thank you for coming all the way from where are you based at the moment?
I'm in Cork City currently.
Cork City. Okay, I'm in West Cork, so we're not that far apart. But I think you're not originally from Cork.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm from the US. I'm from Illinois, but happy to be here. Happy to be in Ireland, even in this very strange time. It's been a really fulfilling experience so far.
Okay, so how long have you been here, and what did you come here to do? And was it your
So
first time?
I am currently on the MA in creative writing at UCC.
Okay.
So I moved here, when was it? The end of August of 2020. So bit of a strange time to be moving to a completely different country with everything going on at the moment. But yeah, I wanted to come back to Ireland. I had studied abroad here previously, and I wanted to come back and see more of the country and everything. So I'd never been to Cork before, and my hometown kind of weirdly enough has some connections to Cork. So I thought I would give it a chance, and I applied and got accepted. So I've been in the creative writing program since September.
Okay, you said your hometown, which is connected to Cork.
Yeah, kind of. So in a very, very strange way. But I try to I try to bring this up at any point I can because I'm like, what connections do I have? So I'm from a small town in Illinois called Mount Olive. There's about 2,200 people there, and our like history, like claim to fame, is Mother Jones, which I don't know if that's
That's is
familiar.
that a magazine?
It is yeah, but it's the name came from a woman who she was actually born in Cork and then immigrated over to the US, and um she fought for human rights and workers' rights and that sort of thing back in the 1900s. So she had a lot to do with coal miners and that sort of thing. And then like when children were working, she really tried to get like the workers' rights kind
Okay.
of improved back in the day. And she's buried in my hometown, so it's a stretch of a connection, but there's a connection there nonetheless.
It's good to know. I'd never thought about who Mother Jones would be. I know it's a magazine, and I didn't know it was connected to an early human rights activist. You know, she was ahead of the times by the sound of it, and it's great that she was born in Cork.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
but do you yourself have any Irish DNA and Irish genes?
I probably do. I feel like there's always the stereotype of Americans being like, "Oh, I'm Irish," and then it's like 0.0003% Irish or so. So I think my sister has done like the ancestry type DNA thing, and I'm sure there's Irish in there somewhere, but not enough to feel like I have any claim to it, I would say.
Okay. And the reason we're here is because you and Lauren O'Donovan or Kavanagh are going to do a session on the 21st of April, 8:30, online, of course, for the Bar Spoken Word. And can you tell us a bit about the session, the name
Yeah,
and
sure.
what it means?
Yeah. So the session is going to be about a literary magazine I'm actually publishing for the first time called the Disposable Stories. The idea behind that came selfishly a few years ago from me wanting to get more writing inspiration for myself. So I posted on some social media and like talking to my friends saying, hey, send me pictures of random things and then I'll use them as writing prompts. And then my sister came up with the idea. She's like, why don't you get a disposable camera and you could maybe pass it around and have people take photos that way? So that kind of bounced around in my head for a little bit. I think that was in 2019. And then I think in the start of last year, we or I decided I wanted to kind of pursue this in like a different way, more so like a literary magazine way, because I've interned at a literary magazine before, and I've actually created my own literary magazine before. So I wanted to do that again and have that experience. So I sent a disposable camera, just like this one. I have a little prop handy. Sent a
Yeah.
disposable camera like that out to one of my friends and had her take photos and sent like a list of rules and all this sort of stuff. And the goal then was to send it to somebody else and have them take a photo. And then at the end, it was meant to come back to me, and I never got the camera back. So the first, it's somewhere in the U.S. just floating around at this point. So
It's like a chain letter almost.
yeah, absolutely. And
Can you tell me something about the rules? I mean, this is not what you're going to do at the bar, so maybe that would be confusing. But was it about what people were asked to shoot? What kind of pictures they were going to make?
yeah. So the pictures, the rules were, I think there were only three. It was like just only take 2 photos because there's only so many photos on a roll of film. I think one of the rules was you can't, like, don't take a picture that has a bunch of people focused on it, because that kind of, I feel like that kind of makes it easier for a writer, because they'll see somebody and be like, they'll just steal their physical description to write about it. Um, and then yeah, it was just pass it on to somebody else. And yeah, I ended up getting lost somewhere along the way.
So you tweaked the concept, but you
I
did
did.
something similar with your fellow students.
Yes, absolutely. So um, what I ended up doing when I moved here is I had mentioned it to one of my classmates, and he thought it was a really good idea. So then the first day of class, somehow, I think somebody mentioned something about, she's like, yeah, I really like writing in response to a photo or a piece of art or something. So it was kind of serendipitous that this happened, because I had just been talking about this idea previously to one of my other classmates. So we ended up, my class and I, there's only 11 of us in the cohort this year. We all passed a camera around, and it was a lot easier that way, because then I actually could keep track of it and kind of nudge people and remind them, like, hey, this is what's going on. So then, yeah, I ended up getting the camera back, and we got we got the photos published, or no, that's not the word I want to use. We
Printed.
got the developed, yeah, printed. Yeah, I always get that word mixed up. We got the photos developed, and I randomly redistributed them, and then those photos served as writing prompts. So each person wrote in response to a new photo that they were assigned, and that's what the event will be, as a reading of those pieces.
Okay, and were they free to take pictures of whatever they liked, or not know people, or did it have to?
Yeah, so they were free to take whatever they liked. Like I said, I think I mentioned in the rules to not have people in the forefront. Like, it was okay if they were in the background or something, but I didn't want it to be like a portrait of somebody. I wanted it to be a portrait of a landscape or that sort of thing.
Okay, I mean, can you say a little bit about the thinking behind it? Because um, what inspires you in a photograph?
Um, I don't know. I think it's just, for me, it was the idea of having this connection with other people, where they're people that you know, and they're taking photos of things, but you haven't necessarily ever seen it before. And for myself, in my writing, I respond really well to images and that sort of thing. Like, I'll just be, say, walking on the street, and I'll see something. I think one day I saw like an empty box, like jewelry box that was meant for a ring, and then I saw that and I was like, well, what happened there? There's a story there. And then my mind kind of spirals until I come up with something. So I was really interested in seeing that kind of with photographs. I think part of it too came from, I really enjoy photography and videography. So I kind of wanted to combine two art forms that I really enjoyed.
And do you think because the effect is different because it's an actual disposable camera, and not, you could have told them, so go and use your digital camera, your phone, and take some pictures and then send them to me. You wouldn't have needed to develop them. But do you like the process, like as you did it?
Yeah, I think so. I think um, there's something about disposable cameras and film just in general, where it's not as staged, because you can take a photo on your phone, and then you can see it and be like, I didn't like that, and retake it and retake it and retake it until you get what you think is the perfect image. And with this, I kind of wanted the spontaneity of just taking a picture and then being like, okay, well, I only can take 2 photos. I just took one of them. I have to leave it alone now. So that was part of it. And then it's interesting too because sometimes film doesn't turn out. Like I got one of the photos developed didn't turn out in this roll of film. So I still had to hand it off to somebody else to try and write about. Each person got 2 photos back so they could write about one or the other or both if they wanted to. And the person that actually got the photo back that didn't really turn out, it turned out really dark and grainy. That was the photo she ended up using. So it was really
Okay.
interesting to see how that, because initially, if it were me, I wouldn't choose that photo because I didn't know what it was. But then the piece that this person ended up writing turned out to be really interesting.
And they could take use whatever format they wanted in their writing, like poetry or essay or short story or novel, something like that. There were no limitations in what they could do with it.
Yeah, so the only limitation was the word count, just because we planned to get physical copies published, so we didn't want like massive word counts, or like pages and pages. So yeah, we got poetry, nonfiction, and fiction submissions, which was really cool. Um, and I think the limit was 2,500 words for fiction or nonfiction. So that, yeah, we ended up getting, I think, five total of fiction and nonfiction, and then the rest were poetry. So yeah.
And those are all going to be in an actual magazine on paper.
Yeah, so we're actually doing a very limited print run of this, not to profit off of it or anything. It's just kind of, we wanted to see it all the way through to completion and just have like a cool little memento that we could show, like, oh hey, this is work that our class did. So I think, yeah, the goal is in the next few weeks. I might possibly even have them like printed before the reading. I'm not quite sure yet, just depending on the timeline. But yeah, the goal is to get. I think we're going to get like 70 copies printed, and I think those are all
And
going
how
already.
how are you financing, if I may ask? I mean, are you selling them in advance, like GoFundMe?
Um, yeah. So what we're doing, initially we were thinking about um, doing pre-sales and that sort of thing, but this is a passion project for me. It's not about making money or anything off of it. So um, I decided I just wanted this to be something that people could buy, like in the class, or like families and friends of my classmates could buy copies if they wanted to. So I sent an email out to my classmates saying, hey, here's what's happening. We had thought about applying for funding, but with COVID and everything going on, there's not a lot of funding out there for students. So we ended up just sending out an email saying, hey, this is what's going on. We'd love to get funding for it, but that's probably not going to happen. Would you, whoever in my class, would you be willing to pay like less than €10 per copy is what it came out to. So
Okay.
they all agreed. And then I had a few friends and family back home as well that wanted copies. So
So okay, great.
yeah.
And can the people that go to the session, they won't be part of the actual reading because you and your fellow students will be reading, but they are kindly invited to do something similar, something, because we have this difficult word, ekphrastic. Is that
Mhm.
right? This is what is called ekphrastic. I think it's put a name on something, name something. Isn't that the meaning of it?
I was doing some research earlier, and there's so many different kind of vague definitions of what ekphrastic writing is. A quote that really stuck out to me was the verbal representation of visual representation, which is kind of repetitive, honestly, but um, really what I have gotten from looking into ekphrastic writing is it's a writing a response to another piece of art. So, say with this project, it's writing in response to a photo. Um, or like in other examples, it's writing in response to a work of art, like a painting, that sort of thing. So at the event on the 21st, we are going to encourage everybody who's participating or listening in to I think we might throw up a photo that wasn't used. I'm not sure if we've decided that, but we're going to throw a photo up from actually the film roll that didn't get used in the magazine itself, and then people will have time to write in response to that. And
Okay,
then
like a writing exercise with a
yes,
prompt.
yes, yep.
And then there also will be an open mic where
Mhm.
people are also encouraged, but it's not obligatory, I think, to just do that. But you can if you want to, because it's a nice exercise to do at home, I think, as well. Would there
Yeah.
be a difference in between looking out of the window and writing about what you see and writing about prompted by a piece of art, you think?
I
Visual.
think for me at least there would be, because there's the spontaneity behind looking at a photo that you haven't necessarily looked at before. Because I look out my window every day and I see the same things. So inspiration's kind of run dry since I've moved here. Because when I first moved here, I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful view. And then you get used to it. So yeah,
Especially
I think,
at this time, I think,
yeah, you're just staring out your
little,
windows a lot these days.
little to distract you.
Yeah.
And is it also, do you also, because what I read up about it, it's also sometimes an interpretation of, and so you're in a way connecting with the maker of the painting or the photograph and trying to figure out what they meant or putting a totally different spin on it. Is that exciting as well? Do you connect with the maker of the visual art?
Yeah, I think I haven't really experienced it much recently, with galleries and everything being closed at the moment, but I went to an exhibit back home in February of 2020, so just weeks before the lockdown started, and there was a painting on display from Vincent van Gogh, and it's a painting I actually had as like my laptop background for years, and then it just coincidentally came to this exhibit that was an hour away. So it was really cool to see that. And I actually, I like to journal a lot, or I try to journal a lot, I guess I should say. And I journaled about it. And then just recently, I did kind of an ekphrastic writing exercise for the poetry class I was in. And I ended up actually writing a poem based on that painting.
Or interesting. And can you tell us what painting it is? Or maybe you can read it at the open mic at the
Yeah.
DeBarra session. That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
It's actually the Starry Night over the Rhone.
Okay.
So I don't know, I've always been, I feel like a lot of people have been drawn to Van Gogh's work, so I'm definitely in that group of people.
Yeah, I used to have some postcards on my wall when I was about 6 or 7 because that spring orchards was a really pretty one. I didn't know, but you saw the actual painting itself.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and did that blow you away, or were you a little bit disappointed? Because that can happen too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had just the year before, I did like a 2-week trip throughout Europe, and I was in Amsterdam, so I actually went to the museum there. And I think going there, my expectations were really high, and then the paintings I expected to see weren't there. So I was a bit disappointed with that. But then going to see this one was really cool because um, a friend and I went together, and this painting had sort of been popping up in her life all throughout her life, and then it was popping up through mine. We had met for coffee one day, and she's like, "Yeah, she's a writer as well." She's like, "I'm writing this, and it has to do with this painting." And I was like, "Oh, what painting is it?" And she told me that it was the Starry Night over the Rhone, and I just very calmly like picked my laptop up and turned it around to show her that it was my background. And then not even a week later, we found out that it was going to be at the closest art museum to us. So it was really crazy. It was really, really cool experience, for that reason. And then just, I don't, there's just something about his paintings, for me at least, that you can see the brush strokes, which I think is just really cool and kind of feels a bit timeless. Like it's a weird time warp type thing when I was looking at his painting, because I'm like, he painted this years ago and it feels like it was just finished like 2 days ago.
Yeah, that's true. Can you say, before we finish, can you say a little bit about yourself as a writer and your plans in that respect? I won't
Yeah.
hold you to them, but
Yeah. So plans change all the time. I think we've all learned that in the past year. But yeah, I am finishing up classes at UCC And then I'm actually moving back home for the summer, just to spend some time with some friends and family. And while I'm doing that, I'll be working on my thesis. So I'm actually writing a novel at the moment. It's a young adult novel. I've had the idea bouncing around my brain for a really long time. And I'm like, I need to finish this. I need to actually write this. So yeah, future plans. I'm hoping to finish that by the end of the year, at least a substantial draft of it. I don't think I won't be reaching back out to you guys and being like, oh, hey, by the way, my book's going to be for sale next year or anything, like nowhere near that. But yeah, the plan is to work on the novel. I have a few short story ideas around young women and traveling, like solo traveling, because that really interests me, and kind of the positive aspects that can go with that. There's been a lot of negative aspects in the news lately, but I want to focus on like the empowerment of women and that sort of thing. So I'm looking at that as well. And yeah, besides that, I'm sure after the chaos and stress of this project dies down, there will be another project in the back of my head saying, hey, pick me, let's do this.
Yeah, or you might continue to do magazines, for example. I mean, that seems
Yeah,
to be a real
yeah,
passion as well.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Emily. I wish you every success. I look forward to reading the book, and maybe I can interview you again once published.
Yes, definitely. Thank you
Please,
so
can
much.
I be in the queue? Okay. And I also look forward to our DeBarra spoken word session on the 21st of April 2021, in case you see this in 2024 or something. Okay, thank you very much.